Joey and friends here to save the day. Talking about dolls and making our own way. Talking to visionaries, dreamers, and kin. Anyone can play here cause we all fit in. From Darcy to Body, from Dawn to Glimmer. We talk about world as the lights go dimmer. Follow us to a playground filled with stories. And let us entertain you with tales of our glories.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joey Dollmaker Versaw, and we're here with the incredible Mel Odom. I'm so excited to have you here. I have such a big history with you, which is, it's interesting, I'm sure, as an artist to have people that you don't even realize how strongly you touch their lives just through just through your art. It's quite amazing. I think it would be probably off-putting too at times where you're like, I don't know you, lady.
Once in a while, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've
Um,
also been so appreciative of it.
yeah. Well, I mean, your talent is so incredible, and I was that kind of crazy fanboy. I remember that I was in Powell's bookstore, and this would have been probably, I'm going to say like 1995 or 94, probably like 1994. And that it was before Gene came out, and I had come across your book Dreamers. It was up on a shelf in Powell's, and I pulled it down, and I just was immersed. I fell in love. I mean, being a young queer kid and seeing your art was so inspiring to me. And then we fast forward, and the Gene doll comes out, and I'm sitting on a bed in Harrellsville, North Carolina, with one of my first partners. And we had our Gene dolls. It was a hot Southern day. We were in an old Southern farmhouse. Harrellsville had a population, I think, of 148 people.
At least.
It just insane. It just had a little red apple. And it was just a super hot day, and we were upstairs, and there's no air conditioning. And we had Gene dolls spread out on the bed, and I have my pinup, and we're reading the cards, and we say Mel Odom from Ahoskie, North Carolina. And I just lost it, and I said to Lance, my partner at the time, I said, that's literally 15 minutes from us, and he said, let me talk to my mom about this. And he mentioned to his mom, and his mom was like, oh, we used to carpool with Mel Odom, and
Aw.
all of this. And so we were like, oh, we have a connection, we have an in. And she said, his mom still lives there in a husky, and so being the crazy kids that we were, we get out the yellow pages, and we find and we find your mom, we find her phone number, and we call her up, and we're like, we're big fans of your son and all of this. And she was just the sweetest thing that could be. And she
Yeah,
said,
she was
well,
sweet.
he comes to visit us, bi-monthly or something. And she kind of gave us a time period. She said, try to call back around this time, and maybe you can
Aw,
catch him. And so we
aw.
waited and waited, and right about the time that she said to try back, we tried back. And she said, hold on a second. And then we heard her go, Melvin. And our
Yep.
hearts were beating, and we got on the phone with you, and then we were able to arrange going and meeting you at a little cafe, and
Yep.
you signed our dolls, and it was
Aw.
just one of the most like exciting things I'd ever experienced in my life up to that point. And then through the years, I think like maybe 4 or 5 years past that, I was living in the Dalles, Oregon, and the doll club that I was connected with, they were taking a trip to I lost it. Something in Washington. There was a doll shop in Washington, Port Orchard, maybe, or something like that. And you were
Okay.
there doing a signing. And I was like, oh, this is Kismet. This is meant to be. I'm going on this field trip with all these doll ladies, and we're going to go see Mel. And so I remember I brought you a single rose because I was madly in love with you.
Aw.
But yeah, through the years, I think that you were such a huge inspiration to me, showing me that as a gay male, growing up in the time period where, dolls were taboo and, I was a boy, so I wasn't allowed to play with dolls and whatnot. And here you were, and you were making your own doll and you were a male and, and so I really looked up to you and that really inspired me to be like, I can do this. He's doing it. I can do this. And it was really beautiful.
You know, I didn't realize at the time, at the beginning of this, that I was doing it, that it was quite the political statement that it was.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't, I didn't think of that at all. I mean, I just was like, I loved Gene so much, and of course I'm going to go out and talk about it. I mean, you couldn't have kept me in. It was like, yeah. When they said, "Would you come do a thing at our doll shop?" I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I was really thrilled at the number of men who came and who expressed that they had been punished perhaps for liking dolls or ridiculed in some way. And I was basically fearless in discussing Gene and refused to be embarrassed about being a man who liked dolls. And
Yeah.
I just did it because that was who I was. It wasn't, I didn't think of it at all as being going beyond that. And then later, when we started having like a third of an event would be men and or a quarter, I realized that it had made a difference to people. And they would say, "Oh, you know, similar to what you said, similar to
Yeah.
what you said." And I had parents who would bring their little boys to me who liked dolls, and I would talk to the parents and sometimes and aside and just say, "Listen, this has made the most money for me that anything I've ever done. So
Yeah.
I haven't a bad thing to say about playing with dolls." And it seemed to matter. And
Yeah.
there'd be these little boys, and I would give them an outfit or a doll or something. And it was now that's sort of coming back to me. Like I have a documentary that's being made, and one of the things they asked me about is Gene and how that affected my life and how my life affected the doll world.
Yeah.
And but at the time, no clue, no
Yeah.
clue. I was
Well, you were
just
just being your most authentic self,
yeah.
and by being your authentic self, you were inspiring all of these people.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, I was so happy that Gene worked
Yeah.
as because I did Gene. You may know this, but I did Gene for a very, very personal reason.
Yeah.
Um, my best buddy, Brian Scott Carr, was ill with AIDS, and it fell to me to take care of him. And we had been best friends since we moved to New York at the same time, accidentally, and became best friends upon meeting.
And
Like
that was
it's
1974, correct?
that was 1975,
Okay. Yeah.
and he became ill, and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, by this time I had already lost a couple of boyfriends to AIDS, and I was expecting to get sick myself with it because this was before the term safe sex was even
Yeah.
coined. And I didn't know that I had the gene that I have that prevented me from contracting AIDS. That
Yeah.
was like 2 decades later before science discovered that. So I was very living in the moment
Yeah.
because I didn't know how many more moments I was going to have. But one of the things the summer Gene, well, that Brian got ill, um, I thought I have to have something that's going to occupy my mind and that's going to help me get through this because I knew, but it happened very fast back then.
Yeah.
People had months to live once they had AIDS. So I had recently designed a face makeup for a friend of mine's doll, and I had done a drawing of who became Jean. She wasn't Jean yet. She was just this pretty face that I thought would make a wonderful doll, and it was a project I did for myself. And she was over my drawing table, and she was pinned up there, and I'd look up and go, "Oh, I need to change that." Now change, and I had been working on it for months, and it was the drawing that actually became the drawing of Jean Marshall. But I decided, okay, I have to have something really engaging to help me get through this with Brian. So I decided I'm going to make a doll. I'm going to make a doll. And I found a wonderful sculptor with Pucci mannequins, a wonderful man named Michael Everett, who sculpted Jean for me. And it turned out his sculptor studio was 3 blocks from Brian's hospital.
Oh, wow.
Like on the same street, 3
Yeah.
blocks apart. And Manhattan is big. And that this was such a close, I would go to the hospital to visit Brian, and then I would come from there and go to the studio and work with Michael. I just thought that was such, when that happened, when that clicked into that, great chance, I decided, this is good. This is good. I have good fortune going for me in this. So that's what I did that summer. I would go to the hospital to see Brian, which was not fun. He got ill very fast, and it affected him mentally very fast. And it was always really terribly sad because he was such a sharp guy. He was a menswear designer, like I said, like my best buddy. And then I would walk a few blocks to Michael Everett's studio, and I would come in this real funk. I had been probably crying in between the hospital and his studio. But I had told him about this, so he didn't wonder what was going on. He knew exactly what was going on. And working with him on Jean would just make me come out of that sadness, that grief, I guess is what it was. And it saved me having
I mean,
that.
she was kind of like an angel in a
Yeah,
sense. I mean,
she totally
and
was. She
yeah.
totally was an angel. And Michael was in a way as well, because he would work on her for long hours when I wasn't there. And I would come back maybe probably 2 or 3 times a week and work with him on it. And I didn't touch the sculpt. That
Yeah.
was all him. But I would bring in pictures. Oh, I love this movie star's nose. I would bring in reference pictures for it, which was always fun. And he would go, oh, okay. And I would come in, and one day I came in, and she was close to being the full body sculpted. And she had the most beautiful body, like lovely, soft muscles in her back and beautiful breasts. And I said, Michael, this is spectacular. And he said, well, my wife is very pregnant, and we can't have relations now. So all my horniness is going into this doll. I just want you to know that.
Perfect.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
thought so too. Yeah. And so I thought, oh my God, I have a straight man's horniness going into creating Jean. So it was like the synchronicity that was not lost on me. I thought, well, this is perfect. This is
It's
just
all perfect.
of course, it made me laugh at the time he said that, and it gave me sort of a different window to look at it.
Yeah.
And so we worked on it all summer, and he was delightful to work with, and we're still friends. And then he made some plaster prototypes. Hydrocal actually was the material.
If those are the ones that you have shown pictures of, those prototypes, my friend Dennis Beltran and I are so obsessed with those dolls. I think that my friend Dennis even wants to try to make one. Yeah, amazing.
This is the first one.
Wow.
The first full body sculpt of Jean. There is a wire sticking out of her back that was the wire of the armature that she
That
was
held her in
sculpted
place.
on.
Wow.
And this is the very, very first,
Yeah.
and I think very beautiful.
Yeah.
And he, I included sculpting to show jointing because I had already decided, oh, I want her to be very articulated and,
Yeah.
and not oddly, I had shown articulated arms, but they didn't come right away, as you know.
Yeah.
But so I worked on Jean after I got one of the figures. I painted her face myself, and my friend Tim Alberts did wigs for movies and Broadway, made little perfect wigs, like
Wow.
just like a human wig,
Yeah.
just like a human wig, mesh, mesh base, hairs put on one at a time.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And and I found, how did I do it? I found doll lashes somewhere. I don't know where. I ordered them from a doll magazine or something.
Yeah.
And painted the face, very meticulously. I was like in love. It was like, oh my God. It was like Dr. Frankenstein seeing his monster,
Right.
and she's beautiful and she's nice. So
Right.
so I did that, and it really, creating Jean really saved me that summer because it was rough. I mean,
Yeah.
Brian never got better,
Yeah.
and I continued to go visit him in the hospital for months. But I also had this beautiful thing with Jean happening, and I'm not saying she was a substitute for a dear friend,
No.
but it was something I had never done. And after I saw her dressed, Tim Kennedy made the first clothes for her. He and I had been friends since college.
Yeah.
So he came in, did some measurements, and did Red Venus was the very first dress. I saw her and I thought, maybe she should be manufactured. How do you do that? How do I do that? And I didn't know. I didn't have a clue because I had been an illustrator. I knew how to draw. I had I did all of that myself, dealing with the clients. So I got a lawyer who knew about that stuff. And she got me another lawyer who knew even more about that stuff. We showed it to Madame Alexander, the first company we showed it to. And and I loved Alexander. I had Madame Alexander dolls. I had collected, I think I had sissies by then, the
Yeah.
beautiful, yeah. I still do. And we went to the guy, the head of the president of Alexander, and I don't even remember his name. He had been previously a lawyer in the music business, which when I told my lawyer that that's what he had done before, she went, "Watch out. That is the shadiest of the art businesses there are, is music, because it's so easily stolen."
Yeah.
And we met with him, and he loved it. He loved it. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a Madame Alexander doll. It's right in New York. The company's right in
Right.
New York. And as we left the very first meeting, she said, "Mel, if you want to work with this man, I will issue a letter of warning and withdraw from this case."
Wow.
And I just thanked her. I just
Yeah.
thanked her. I said, "Thank you." I don't, because who was I to know? I mean, and
Yeah.
I thought it was all going great. I mean, I was like smiling and happy,
Right.
and he loved the prototypes. Anyway, she then hooked me up with a wonderful lawyer named Al Gottesman, who had been the lawyer for the Muppets,
Oh,
and
wow.
Jim Henson. And she said, "I know who." My first lawyer said, "I know who's just the lawyer for you." And we had a meeting, and I met Al, who I adored, had a crush on, handsome, sweet, smart, and he's the one who did all of my lawyering for for years and years and years. And I would take, papers and contracts and things to his office on Madison Avenue, I think like 23rd Street in New York, which is, I'm on 7620. Anyway, and one day he called and he said, Mel, could you drop some papers off by my apartment? I have a cold and I'm not going in. I said, sure, sure, be glad to. And it turned out he lived 2 blocks from me.
Wow.
Yeah, literally lived 2 blocks from me. And he told me that, and I said, you're not going to believe this, Al, but we live 2 blocks apart. So from then on, our meetings took place in a coffee shop in the neighborhood,
That's
which was great.
amazing.
Yeah, it
That's
was great. It was
amazing.
really great. And then he got me a licensing agent who was the first woman licensing agent in New York, a woman named Shirley Henschel. And she was great and loved Gene. And Al loved Gene. He was older than me, and he had seen all of those movies. So when I explained it to him, he didn't need the explanation. He was going, "Oh my God, this is such a great idea."
Yeah.
So, and then Shirley loved it for the same reason. And we started meeting with companies, and it was company after company after company, and we would travel to other states and other cities to meet with companies, and it was really rather exhausting.
Hmm.
And like a year later, we still didn't have a company,
Wow.
and because it was an ambitious project.
Yes.
It was a very ambitious project because it had stories and fashions you could buy, and other characters and stuff. So people loved it. Everybody loved it, but they didn't think they were up to it. I
Yeah.
think it's the truth. And afterwards, a couple of the companies actually did sort of half-assed versions of Gene. So they were trying to do a dumbed down version, and it
Yeah.
just didn't work because
Yeah.
Gene was for people who kind of got it and
Mhm.
knew that those were real, real, not they weren't real movies, but they were like real movies,
Yeah.
and the little stories that came with Gene rang true,
Yeah.
rang true. So it was a very interesting time for me. I learned to be a business person, sorta, sorta. But I didn't have to because all I had to do was tell them about Gene, and I was so jazzed about it that they were always impressed at how much I loved it, and that would come out in the notes afterwards.
Well, I feel
He
like it sold itself. I mean, it was such a,
eventually it did,
yeah.
but companies look at things in different ways than collectors do,
Hmm.
and so Gene came out for Ashton Drake. They put an ad in like a Sunday paper, bombed, had the worst public relation of any doll they had ever done. And
That's
I thought,
insane. That's insane to me.
yeah, true. It happened. It happened.
Yeah.
And and it did that a couple of times. Ads would come out and no one, it got the poorest reaction. So Ashton Drake had hired a really talented, smart woman, Joan Green. She had moved from California to Chicago, from warm weather to some of the coldest weather you could have. And she said, "This is not a good. What was the term? This is not good buying it from a magazine. You need to see this in person to see what this is about." So she set about getting it in stores and told them, "We have to do this a different way. We have to." She was really important and a big deal in
Yeah.
Gene's becoming successful because they realized this point of, what was it called? Point of purchase? Whatever. This being advertised in a magazine, people are not getting what Gene is
Yeah.
and how much Gene is. So once we got like FAO Schwartz liked us. And I'm like, oh my God, because that was my dream store. I mean, I would
Yeah.
go there. I would very seldom buy anything because I would just look at the toys and, drool. So I went to very first signing I ever went to, and I didn't even know about those at all, was in Texas. And a woman who owned the store just said, "Would you come here and I want to do a signing for your doll, Jean. Would you come here?" And she sent me a plane ticket. And
Wow.
I went. I
Yeah.
went. And I did not have a clue what I was supposed to do, though. I got there. She picked me up from the airport. We go to her store. We go in through the back door, and we're in a storeroom, and they're like jeans stacked taller than I was, and you know, many of them, just like so many. I was like, oh my God. And I said, and I could hear people. There was a curtain that separated the back room where the store, you know, the storage was, and where I was with her. And I could hear people outside, and I was like getting nervous. I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is not anything I've ever done. How do I do this? And
Right.
she went, "You'll figure it out," and pushed me out through the curtain
Oh my
into
God. Oh
into
my
the room.
God.
Yeah, into the room of people.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and there was a bunch of people, and I was like, "Hi," and they were like so jazzed on Gene that I relaxed immediately because this was something I was the expert on.
Yeah.
I could tell them anything that had happened. I could tell them about, you know, any little piece of minutia I had basically created. So it was a big success. It was a big, big success. They sold a lot of jeans and then sold a lot of jeans to people afterwards because people who had been there and bought them were showing them to their friends and
Mhm.
talking about having met me and how fun I was or something. And it. And then I just did, well, Ashton Drake started sending me on appearances because they found out I was really good at it. Because some doll artists are not. They're very shy. I
Yeah.
found that out. I didn't know this. I mean, I'm such a blabbermouth. The idea of being shy about something you've made
Right.
just isn't going to happen. And they started sending me places, and it really went through the roof. It just
You
they
were
started.
like Evita doing a rainbow tour, you know?
Well, you know what had happened was that was the year Mattel had to renew the license, the trademark for Barbie. And in order to do that, they were being very, very rude to their store people, to their
Yeah.
salespeople, the stores, because like stores that had been, you know, Janie and Barbie, they had to tear the sign down and make it just Janie. And they couldn't use any Barbie signage or anything because Mattel needed to renew their contract, and there's some very strict rules in. So Mattel's heavy-handed lawyers had alienated a lot of stores.
Yeah.
And then Gene happened at the same time, and
Wow.
Gene was their chance to stick it to
Yeah.
Mattel for being so heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And so there were stores that said, "We stopped carrying Barbie. We're carrying
Wow.
Gene now."
Wow.
Yeah, true story. True
That's
story.
amazing.
And I didn't know what to say because I loved Barbie, but
Yeah.
Barbie was at a really low point design wise. It
Hmm.
was all giant hair and giant skirts, and there was
Hmm.
no fashion whatsoever
Yeah.
involved in it. These were not fashion dolls any longer. They were Christmas Barbie with a skirt, you know.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. They had a video release, Mattel did, and I forget who the designer was at the time, but it was probably like 1994 or 95, and she was designing a Barbie for everyone, and literally just had pink tulle that she just was like
Yep,
bunching up and then throwing glitter on it and
yep,
calling it a day, and that's what, you
yep.
know.
Well, it was again, it was like timing.
Yeah.
And then when I started doing stuff, it went through the roof. And within a like the first year, uh, Jean was being heralded as a new thing. She was a new size. She was the stories. the historic set in historical Hollywood were unique, and I was a blabbermouth. I would go anywhere and talk to anybody about this.
Well, and
And
the size was so smart because what we don't think about is, when we're kids, we're playing with Barbie and we grow into adults, we're bigger people, and so holding a Gene doll is a lot more natural
yeah,
feeling as an adult, and you feel more like a child holding the doll
yep,
than you do with the Barbie. It was really brilliant, so brilliant that it's become
a
part of
standard size.
the standard size and doll history. And I got to, watch as this all unfolded and watch Ashton, or not Ashton Drake, Madame Alexander doing their Alex, and I got to see, Tyler come out and all of these things. And I remember as they were happening and coming out, I was like, like,
Yeah,
like, oh, you're gonna ride the boat too, and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
Toys R Us doing a total copy of Jean, Haley, and
yeah.
I remember going into Toys R Us and seeing Haley on the shelves, and I thought, oh, this is horrible. Like, what are they doing? Like, how are
And
they
it was
getting
our
away with
factory.
this?
It was our factory who made Haley.
Wow.
They were bootlegging Haley using fabrics we had sent them for Jean, and Joan Green was here in New York for a photo shoot, and again Michael Everett, his studio was in a building right next to Toys R Us, and while we're doing a photo shoot for Jean, true story, I get a phone call from Michael saying, Mel, you need to go to Toys R Us. There's something there you should see. So I left the photo shoot to go to Toys R Us. And I was horrified. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like horrified.
I'm not even the
Same shape.
artist, and I was horrified when I saw her.
But it was like Jean robbed of her soul and
Yeah,
beauty.
yeah.
It wasn't work. No eyelashes, no style to the
It was an
clothes.
AliExpress doll from, it was,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we sued them
yeah.
and won, and they had to
Rightfully
burn them.
so, yeah.
They had to burn the ones that were still at the factory. I said, "Oh, can we just sell them?" I went, "No, you can't.
No,
You
yeah.
can't. You can't." God bless Joan Green. She had enough diplomacy that she went back to the factory that we had just sued and continued to work with that factory. Yeah, because they were doing such a great job on Gene
Yeah,
that we didn't want to lose that.
yeah.
But so
They
it
had to
was,
stop their shenanigans. Yeah.
yeah, we totally had to. I think I have one Haley doll somewhere, but it was so I bought three of them at that day when I went
Yeah.
and found them, and I brought them back to this photo shoot, and I said, Joan, sit down. This is tough. Oh, and it was one of those things where you had to get a piece of paper and they would then go get the doll for you.
Oh, right. I remember that. Yeah.
Well, the piece of paper had our factory's name on it. Yeah.
Wow.
And I showed this to Joan, and I remember just how completely freaked out and upset we were, and that she was
At
as
the
well.
same time, you had to have some kind of feeling of like, we made it. Like
Yeah,
we're,
I totally did. I totally did. I really did. I thought, wow, I guess this is what happens when you succeed at something. And
Right.
so but it was a never not fascinating for someone who had not been in the business world until all of this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't imagine what horrible grief that also brought into your psyche when this is such a passion project and it was so hard, getting it to where you had got it. And then to see you're just starting to like really see this birth of this phenomenon of Gene and to walk into Toys R Us and to see this, I can't
Oh,
imagine what
my
we're
stomach
going
dropped.
through.
I remember it was like I, I just saw it and it was like, oh God,
Yeah.
like just like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
gosh. And then I went to my lawyer, Al, and I flew to Chicago about this. What are we going to do? And, how are we going to do this? And um, I wasn't there during the trial, I guess, but because I didn't want to be. I
Yeah.
really thought I'm going to jump up and scream something in the courtroom like, kill him or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't want to do that. So, yeah, it was a very dramatic, very traumatic, um, very early twist
Yeah.
in Gene's story. But Gene continued to grow, and FAO Schwartz signed on, and then you know I was I did an appearance at FAO Schwartz, and the first one I think, and it was cold. It was like during Toy Fair, which is in February, like
Yeah.
the nastiest time of year
Yeah.
in New York City, just nasty cold, and like hundreds of people came and were like wrapped around the block, and I just didn't know how to react. I mean, I feel like that day I was in a form of shock. I mean, you would have never known it. I was smiling and talking to people, and
Right.
but I was just like, when Charlie, my husband, and I came home that night, I just like onto the bed and asleep. I was
You were
just,
actually living the life of Gene Marshall. You were having, you know.
I know. I thought that too. I thought this is this is not this is way more than I had anticipated this
Right.
being.
Right.
And throw into that my friend Brian Scott Carr, who I had done this with and for, died during this. So there was this grief of that, but also this like joy that I had created something that people really loved and that I really loved, and I had made her like a really good person. I wanted that first and foremost, that she
Yeah.
was not a bitch. So that's why we had to make Madra.
Madra, I was just gonna
Yeah,
say.
that's why she was our second doll, not
Yeah.
Ken, but
Yeah.
her Madra was the second doll. And I remember the meeting I had with Ashton Drake. They flew into Chicago, had a lot of frequent flyer miles during those days, and showed them about Madra, you know, drawing and everything, and it would be a table of like vice presidents and stuff. I mean, I was really out of my element, but I found that helped. That kind of gave me a power. And I said, "Oh, and this is Madra. She's a slightly older than Gene movie star." They went, "Oh, her best friend." And I went, "No, her worst enemy." To
Yes.
their credit, they all went, "Ooh." There was an audible ooh around this table of vice presidents when I said that.
I love that.
Yeah.
The
And I did.
drama.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a real interesting period in my life, and I learned a great deal. I was learning stuff, and so fast because you had to.
Yeah, I think it's funny when you were talking about Madame Alexander. When I was working for FAO Schwartz in Atlanta, it was right at the time that Warmest Wishes had been released. And it's so funny because in their big glass case of dolls, they had Jean and they had Madame Alexander, right next to
Wow.
each other,
Wow.
So what
Wow.
the world is strange how things work and interconnect.
Yeah. I had never traveled like that. I was doing 20 appearances a year, and that's 20 weekends away,
Yeah.
and all over in other countries.
Yeah.
And I found that Gene had this incredible kind of universal appeal
Hmm.
and a language of that people really appreciated and enjoyed. I mean, it was it was a really exhausting and wonderful experience, Gene, happening and going on in various forms for 19 years.
It's amazing. I mean, and when I first connected with Gene, and I was already connected with you through your art, and so when I saw Gene and connected with Gene, she really brought me this feeling of, old Hollywood, and I thought of the women. Because we have like Norma Shear and we have
Yeah,
Joan Crawford,
yeah, yeah,
so I'm
yeah,
thinking, Gene and Madra,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
she really brought that magic of the golden Hollywood era. I mean, she really, she didn't just pretend to be that. She was that. She
Uh,
embodied that. And it was such a feat and it was so amazing. And some of my best memories in my whole entire life of collecting dolls and whatnot were early years for me, but were the Gene years of walking into doll shops and just seeing, Gene everywhere. And
I know.
it was so powerful, and I so connected with them. I loved opening up my trunk, and pulling out costumes and dressing the dolls
Oh,
and the size and everything. And I feel I kind of became protective of you, because as I'm watching, I was so embedded in the doll community, and as I'd watch anything come out that was even the same size, the whatever, I would be like,
well, when I decided on her size, I drew her, and I went to a copy shop, and I had her made many different sizes, up to like 20 inches.
Yeah,
I like, but I would go every like inch and then half inch, so that I had like all of these different sizes that she was, and I laid them out on my floor in my living room, and I just sat with them one evening. I just sat there and I thought, okay, what size is this doll going to be?
yeah,
And I walked around and I did. It was actually a process of elimination. Nothing that was similar to the size of Barbie. That you couldn't do, or you would
hmm,
be competing with Barbie.
right,
And and then the big ones, I thought, that's awkward. That would be awkward because I have mannequins from the 40s that are
yeah,
like this tall, and I thought no. So I just process of elimination, and it came down to this one that was 15 and a half inches tall, and I was being very, probably had smoked some weed, and I was sitting there and looking at it and being very, very real with myself
right,
because there was no one around me. I was doing
yeah,
this myself, and and then I thought, oh my God, this is a great size. This is a great size. And then the first time this was made, I was like, oh my God, this is a great size. This is exactly me as a kid holding a Barbie.
yes, yes,
But I'm a grown up now and I'm holding Jean. And
yes.
she's cooler
And she's
than Barbie is
cooler.
these. She's
Yes.
cooler these days than Barbie. And this was because Mattel had really sort of, I think, just sort of taken her for granted
hmm,
and not given them their best thought.
yeah,
And then when Jean became a success, I think they thought, oh, we got to jazz up Barbie.
right,
So I love Barbie. I still
yeah,
love Barbie. And I have like I had a really killer collection of 50, um, from ponytail to American Girl Barbies,
yeah.
meticulously dressed, that I sold in an auction to help pay for developing Jean.
That's amazing.
So
I actually I did the same thing when I was developing Miss Mary Magpie. I sold all my all of my vintage Barbies because I was a big ponytail
Yeah,
freak. I love
so was I.
ponytails.
So was I.
And I had some beautiful number threes, nipples, and just perfect. And I actually literally cried, which I know
Yep.
is sad thinking of a grown man crying,
No,
but
it's
I
not.
actually literally cried selling those dolls. But I
Done
thought to
that.
myself, I'm funding my future.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I slowly got a few things, back, bought another couple number threes, and because I love them so much.
Yeah.
But I
I
know
have
I
one
know
number
that,
three. I have one
yeah,
number three, a brunette, dear friend. And it's like, I actually had a special little case built like last month for, I have five Barbies now because I'm afraid to start again because
yeah,
I know how
slippery
addictive.
slope.
Oh, very slippery slope. Very slippery. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool. So speaking of what I do know the story about the porcelain doll. I don't know if everyone else knows about that story about when you were a child about finding the doll head.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'm really curious to know what inspired you as a child. What was your play dolls? What was it that you wanted or you gravitated towards as a kid?
Anything that was a doll. I
Yeah.
had older girl cousins, so I inherited the earliest doll I remember having was a baby doll, uh, composition head, arms and legs, and a cloth body. So it was one of those floppy
Yeah.
baby dolls, and I was given it. I mean, my parents and my family clearly figured out who I was very early on, and I was so small that I sort of had to drag her down the street by her leg to go with her because I was really little, and her name was Shaggy because her wig had been played with over the
Right.
years, and she was my very first doll that I recall, and I loved her very much. And my mother bought me a laundry detergent doll, which I don't know if you're maybe too young to know this, but there were in any several different brands of laundry detergent did dolls that you could order,
Yeah.
and they were from two box tops from the box of laundry detergent,
Right.
and you'd send them in with I think like 50 cents or $1, something like that, and it would come back. My mother bought me one of those, and it came in this little box like that big, and she had very blonde hair, and I just thought it was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen in my life, and I named her Candy because that
Oh,
her hair color reminded me of candy, and I've tried to find one of those,
yeah.
and I can't even remember. And she had a really cute little dress on, red, white, and blue taffeta, some cheap taffeta, and real shoes, I think. And I loved any doll you could get. I would ask for them. I got the first really good doll I got was, and it was a really good doll. It was like a big doll, and she was beautiful, and had long dark hair, and came in a yellow dress, and I got it for Christmas. I mean,
Was
this
she
was
like a play pal type or was she a fashion type?
she was not a fashion type. She was a little girl. She and I loved her so much.
Yeah.
I I played with her. I mean, I'm sure my father was worried as all get out. His youngest son played with dolls all the time. But and I got grief. I got called a sissy.
Yeah.
I got not by my family, thank God. By uh, friends
Right.
and actually more frequently the siblings of friends
Hmm.
who didn't particularly like me because I was their friend and felt no compunction about calling me, a sissy,
Right.
which was, sort of later that became queer, but a
Right.
queer.
Right.
But and it killed me back then hearing that just because no, I think being otherized when
Hmm.
you're a child is
Hmm.
very traumatic, and
Yes.
that's I remember that very vividly. And I had my best friend Lynn Lewis had a really evil sister
Oh
who,
no.
yeah, who would, whenever she could, uh, be be awful to me.
I had
But
those girls too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I kept doing it. I kept doing it. It didn't stop me. It
Yeah,
didn't stop
no.
me. Then when Barbie came out, it was like, oh, I was like 9. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, that's the prettiest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I knew which TV shows on Saturday morning had Barbie commercials on them.
That's amazing.
So I started watching all those shows, not for the shows, but for the
Right.
Barbie commercials. And I would just be like, "Oh my God, that's the prettiest thing I've ever seen." And it wasn't till Barbie became a bubble cut that I got one. I actually, the very first doll I got like Barbie was a lily, was a little Hong Kong lily, one of the small ones.
Yeah.
And she was in a like a midnight blue sheath, strapless sheath, and she had blonde ponytail, and it was like 98 cents or something like that.
Right.
And I remember all of them of the different fashions and everything were on a little carousel in the store, and I was just like mesmerized. My mother had to sort of forcibly drag me away from that, and but then I saved up my money and bought one, which I played to played with to pieces, quite
Yeah.
literally, because
Yeah.
they were rubber bands holding them together and stuff. And
I was curious about what your first Barbie was because I know you did those amazing paintings of number five ponytail and of a fashion queen, and then you have the number three Barbie that's
yeah,
in your home,
yeah,
and so I was curious if one of those were your first, but you say Bubble Cut was your first.
a Titian, a Titian bubble cut. I
Wow.
really wanted the platinum blonde with frosty pink lips, but my mother said, "Oh, she looks cheap." And I thought, "Okay, I'm getting a doll. I'm getting a Barbie. I have to go with this." And she liked the Tisha one because she was beautiful too. I mean, she was
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
And as something that never changed when I would buy on the rare occasions get one for a present, an outfit, or buy one, they were always the most real looking of the clothes.
Hmm.
Like my very first outfit I got was the sweater and orange, the gray pencil skirt and the orange sweater
I
and
love
shell,
that outfit. Sweater girl or knitting
sweater
print.
girl,
Yeah, sweater girl.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And I loved all the clothes I got were real looking clothes. I didn't really like the evening gowns and things so much
Hmm.
because I they had, I don't know, limited play value. These
Right.
I could see her in real life in my head. So
Mhm.
it was a very, but I had that Barbie until I was in college, and my mother gave it away to some neighborhood urchin,
Oh
and I
no.
came back and I'm like, "Where's my Barbie?" Because I had saved that and all the clothes and everything. And she
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I gave that to blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Mom." And she was, when she saw my face, my ashen face and the horror in my eyes, she realized she had done a very bad thing. And I had, my mother was very sweet, as you know.
Yeah.
So I had to like not play
Yeah.
that too much
Yeah.
because she had given it to me and all that. But
Right.
she would be up on my shelf behind me had my mother not given her away,
Right.
because
Right.
I had a deep love for her,
That's
really
so
truly.
amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think one of the things too that is so inspiring is how unapologetic you are with your authenticity. I mean, you were doing this homoerotic queer art, some of the most beautiful art I've ever seen in my entire life, and you were doing this during a time period where we were them. You
Yeah.
know, we were other, and
Yeah.
here you are as a professional, you know, creating this beautiful art, and your starts with like Viva and Blue Boy magazine and then all the way to Time, the cover of Time, which I
Yeah.
could imagine like was mind-blowing for like your family and for everyone
For
like
me, for me
yeah.
it was. For me it was. I got Viva. I I had a very charmed career. I came to New York and I got work. I had like 8 little drawings, little, because I could do more of them while I was making a portfolio because my
Yeah.
work was very, very time consuming. And I came for a weekend to visit a girlfriend of mine up here, a girlfriend from college who was living up here and an actress. And I knew my college advisor's name, the name of his agent. He had said it once and I had remembered it. Her name was Peggy Keating. And I thought, I'm going to try this. I had brought my drawings with me. And I called her up. She was a model, had been a model. I went down to Greenwich Village where she was. She had like straight bangs and a page boy. And I thought, oh my God, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And she was dark hair and blinding blue eyes, just beautiful blue eyes. And she was my first agent. So I came after that weekend. I went back to Richmond where I was waiting tables to make money to come to New York someday. And she called me like 2 weeks later and she said, well, I have a job for you. And I'm like, really? Oh my God. And it was for Viva magazine.
Yeah.
So I literally packed up and moved the next week to New York.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, because I had just come back I had been in school in England and studied in Leeds and then had been studying music in London. And I came, so I didn't have much stuff because of all that travel. So I just packed a bag and or two and my portfolio, which again was, you know, that things went in, and moved to New York, stayed with my actress girlfriend in her apartment with a fashion model, another fashion model who was, you know, her roommate. Now there were 3 of us living there. It was, and I was already working for Viva when I moved to New York,
Wow.
and the first, the very first assignment I got from Viva was they wanted me to just do an erotic fantasy.
Yeah.
That was all the art direction, and I did this erotic fantasy of this man and woman, and I gave the man an erection because I don't know, that was,
It's
you
an
know, part of the
erotic
fantasy is,
fantasy. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
really, really,
Yeah.
and they printed it just like that. Just they didn't change anything, and it came out. It was several months, you know, months later. It
Mhm.
came out, and in the meantime, I was working for sleazier skin magazines because they got it. It was
Yeah.
to their credit. They all saw my work and went, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they got it." And I was, but I don't think I did another penis even for these sleazy magazines. I think I just was sort of being a bit more tasteful for them because the rest of the magazine was horrible, like
Right.
really bad. These were not.
Right.
These were ones you saw on the back of newsstands, you know,
Yeah.
that you had to
Yeah.
ask for.
Yeah.
And I've blocked the names of them actually, and then but Viva kept hiring me. I mean, I did another drawing for them like right away after that one came out. It was very successful, you know, fondly reviewed by readers or
Right.
whatever. And they were my first magazine, and then Blue Boy had seen my things in Viva, and the art director of Blue Boy, who was this amazing man named Alex Sanchez, came to New York and said, I want you to work for Blue Boy. And, you know, and they wanted like male erotica. And it was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm going to get paid for doing this.
Yeah.
And I did the first drawing I did wasn't erotic enough for them. And they said, "You can do better than that, Mel. I know that." So I did another one. I did another one for them. And then Playboy saw my work in Blue Boy. And then in '79, Playboy hired me to start doing things
Wow.
for them.
Yeah.
And I did a drawing for a short story by Roald Dahl called My Uncle Oswald, Man in Bed with the Red Pill in his hand. And Time magazine called me. Called me in to do a portrait of the Ayatollah Khomeini for the cover of Time magazine. And
Yeah.
I'm like having trouble being real in
Right.
these situations where I'm, first of all, back then, getting into Time magazine was like, it was in a
Oh.
building known as Black Rock
Yeah.
because it looked like a giant black rock. It was this huge, forbidding looking skyscraper. And you have to sign in at the desk in the front, and you go through, a little gate where and there's a guard there, and they check you for stuff, and then you go up, but the staff of Time magazine, the art department, was the wackiest bunch of people I had yet to meet. The art director was a woman, and she was wearing an Indian headband and feather. Irene Ramp was her name.
Wow.
She was lovely. She's still around. She's living in California now. And
Wow.
they wanted me to do this portrait of the Ayatollah, which I did. And then they wanted me to do a portrait of Ronald Reagan, and I did that. And then they, then I mean, it was like it. I had sometimes a difficult time grasping that this was real,
Yeah,
that
you
I
have
had
to
come to
pinch
New York
yourself.
and that I had gone from, Viva, Blue Boy, Playboy to Time magazine in like 4 years.
Yeah, that's unheard of. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I I continued to work for Playboy for 17 years.
Wow.
Because first of all, I had a great art director there, a guy named Carrick Pope. It was really sweet, really had good taste, and let me do things my way, sort of.
Hmm.
They'd send me a manuscript, and they wouldn't give me any direction, and I would just do probably two or three sketches because that's just how I worked.
Yeah.
And they would love it, pick one, and I would do a finish, and I was getting all kinds of awards from, you know, Society of Illustrator and other publications from my drawings. I mean, it was really like a 4 year period from
Wow.
going from nobody to covers from Time magazine.
That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And interesting thing, the portrait of the Ayatollah, which I did, I think, in '79, was not used until '88 because they did it thinking he's an old man, he's going to die, we'll use it for that. But my dad died in '88. Had a great dad, very sweet man. And I was home every 6 weeks with my mom. That's possibly during the same time we met. Probably is.
Yeah.
And I was home that winter. This could have been '89. I'd have to look at the magazine to see what the date on it is. When the Ayatollah drawing came out on Time magazine, I was in a hosky. And this was a big news in a hosky
Oh, yeah, you think?
that a hosky boy had moved to New York and had done covers for Time
Made it
magazine.
big.
Made it big. And and I went to church with my mom because I would do that. I would get her back to going back to church when I would go there, and you know, all the people there congratulating her and me, and it was like a really perfect synchronicity of that happening at a time when my mom was probably the saddest she had ever been in her life,
Yeah.
and this out of the blue thing happen, and it was great. It was really great. I loved it. I loved it for her, and I was and I just was astonished at how great the timing had been.
The timing was perfect because, that was able to bring joy
Yeah,
in to fill her heart that was grieving so
yeah,
hard,
yeah,
to have that like moment of strength of being proud of your child,
yeah,
of having that honor of that
yeah,
happening in your life,
yeah.
that's amazing.
And it's sort of happening at church. Like I said,
Yeah.
when I went with her, people gathering around and patting me on the back, and her seeing that, and while I was there, people bringing their issue of Time magazine by for me to sign and stuff.
Right.
It was really, I could practically get teary about this
Yeah.
because it was like so great. And I um I just couldn't get over how perfect that had worked out, because
Yeah.
I had I got a call from Time magazine while I was there saying, we're going to, on my answering machine, we're going to use your drawing on the cover of Time. And I'm like, oh, oh my God. And may we use your name on it? And I thought, and I called him back and I said, of course you can use my name.
Please use my
Yeah,
name.
really. What do you think? I didn't know till I got back that the piece on Time was about the Salman Rushdie having a hit out on him for saying something about the Ayatollah in a book. And my friends thought I was being kind of foolhardy, even having my name in the
Right.
magazine
Attached to
connected with
that.
that, because what if they didn't like the drawing? You
Right.
know,
Right.
and so I closed my blinds for a couple of weeks and wore dark glasses a lot, but nobody shot at me. Nobody.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. True story.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Uh,
And they would say, because I went to an illustration party and they went, "Boy, you're brave," and I'm going like, "What are you talking about?" And
right.
they said, "Well," and then they told me, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
did not think of that." In a hosky, they're going to come to a hosky in North Carolina and shoot me. Someone in a turban is going to come to a
Later,
hosky and
later
shoot me.
on that night, after realizing you're leaving with sunglasses
Yeah,
and
yeah, 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 yeah. No, but by then I was working a lot, and so I kept busy. I stayed in and drew during that whole period.
yeah.
Yeah,
How amazing is that?
yeah.
So, with all of this, all of your accomplishments and with everything going on, what would you hold as your most, I guess, the most authentic you project that you worked on that was successful, that's closest to your heart? What would that be?
Well, I have to say that's Gene,
It is Gene,
because
yeah.
but I had been drawing my entire life since I was 3.
Yeah,
But Gene was something that, as I explained, came from a real grief,
yeah,
that I needed something very special, something I had never done before, and a lot of very personal stuff went into Gene.
hmm
I mean, as I said, my friend's illness and everything, and how, I mean, I had lost a number of people by then, but um, it saved me. It really saved me working on Gene that summer that
yeah,
Brian was first went into the hospital, and then it well, let's start with the basis. It made me a bunch of money,
yeah,
and it got me out in public and meeting people in a way,
yeah,
because illustration's a very solitary profession.
yes,
You're home drawing, and I had become a bit, I've never been a recluse, but I was by necessity so much of the time with my illustration career that I really didn't have a sense of and living in New York is a pretty big city,
yeah,
and Gene made me go out and embrace people in a way my illustration career never had.
right.
And I found how many people told me stories. I had my first appearance at FAO Schwarz was cold as hell. You know, it's February. It's like this. And I'm now in New York. And a woman came up to me and chatted with me, and lovely woman. And after she left, her husband came up to me and said that this was the first time she had been out of the house in 3 years.
Wow.
That she suffered from agoraphobia,
Yeah.
and that she decided when she read that I was going to be doing this, that she was going to go to
Wow.
FAO Schwarz and meet me and have Jean sign her Jean box
Yeah.
signed. And I like was so moved, and I felt like Jean did something for people that was a direct reflection of what she did for me. She gave me, working on her gave me something beautiful to focus on
Yeah.
during that period when my friend was ill and I was seeing him in the hospital, declining rapidly. And I found that people told me, one woman came in with a scrapbook of her mother and father on their honeymoon, and the dates of the photos on the honeymoon corresponded with dates of clothes we had made for Jean. You know, this was
Wow.
early 40s, and because I
Yeah.
always said we needed a date on them. And she said that her mother had died, just died, and that this was her way of grieving for her.
Yeah.
And I was just sort of gobsmacked that it had been my way of grieving for Brian
Hmm.
by doing this doll. And then she went out and sort of they got the emotional content, not just the way she looked and
Right.
her clothes and the stories, but people were gay men said, I've never had the nerve to buy a doll in a store, but Jean was so beautiful, I had to go and buy her.
Yeah.
And
I mean, she
one,
really changed history. She changed doll history and just your being. To me, you are an angel, a human embodiment of an angel walking on this planet, not only for the inspiration that you've brought to so many people, not only the queer community, but just people in general, the inspiration that you have brought just being your authentic self, and then your kindness, which I believe you really got from your beautiful mother, who was such a sweet, kind person. You have this heart of gold that you're this notable artist that really is high up on the totem pole, yet you keep this connection to people. You are so close to everybody. You're not unreachable. You're on a platform where you are communicating and commenting to just anybody and everybody and allowing that into your life so that they can also feel that and have a connection with you. And that's so beautiful because so many artists don't, they will not have anything to do with that. But the fact that you are so easy to connect with, and you have yourself out there like you do is so inspirational and beautiful. And I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart
oh,
for that, because it really is, it's special, you know?
well, that's my dad. My dad was one of the sweetest men I've ever known in my life. He was gregarious. He had many, many, many friends. When he died, I would go down, I'd be in a hosky, and people would come up to me and say, "You're Bill Odom's boy, aren't you?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And they would tell me these wonderful stories about something my father had done for them, and or you know, he was, he'd excuse me, he'd sit in hospital with people when they were ill, and I didn't know I had that component until that day in Texas in that shop,
Yeah.
when suddenly I was talking to all these strangers, but I had something specific to talk about, and I was the authority on it. So
Right, right.
I was like, I remember coming back from that and said, I found my dad. I found my dad in myself because I
Yeah,
was so like my mom
right.
until this happened. And then that being able to be in a crowd of people and to interact with them one on one and to be genuinely happy they're there
Yeah,
and that they love something I love. I mean, how are you not happy when somebody's there because they love something that you created and you love?
right,
So
right.
it was a real awakening for me. It really made me realize I could do more things than I thought I could because um, I worked very, very hard on Gene and invested, money in it that I sort of didn't really have, but I wanted Gene to happen. And then the 14 months process of finding the right company for Gene, all of it kind of in hindsight seems so faded, so like steps.
Yeah,
And it was never that. It was always, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this happen. It was always like daring myself to make this thing that I really wanted to see actually happen. The finding out that I could talk to strangers in a store and enjoy it, not have to be even a little bit fake,
right.
was like such a huge gift. It was like I came back from that first event changed because I had been there with all these people and it had been fun and I had had a really good time and people were laughing and everybody was happy and people were buying more stuff because they met
Right.
me and I wasn't an asshole. I mean, and was talking to them and saying, well, how the inspiration for this, because
Yeah.
there was a lot of minutia in how Gene outfits happened because it was like, and I knew that. I knew it all. So it was a very wonderful thing for me, and it was that for a very long time. And
Well, and what's so amazing too about Jean is she really did I mean she did so much, but the fact that people started repainting her. Artists started
yeah,
repainting Jean and started making one of a kind creations out of
yeah,
Jean,
yeah,
and that blew up,
yeah,
and then I remember being on eBay and some artist had airbrushed this Jean doll, and this was Ashton Drake days still
uh-huh,
before Integrity,
right,
and early Ashton Drake days, and they had airbrushed this Jean, and I watched her. I think it was probably, I'm gonna say 1998 or 1999 or something
uh-huh,
like that. And she sold for like 800 and some dollars, and I was just like, oh, like,
wow, yeah,
well, wow,
oh,
Uh,
well, at the conventions they started happening after the first year, and
yeah,
they would have an auction of one of a kinds that the designers like Tim Kennedy and Doug James and Tim Alberts, all the original, and Laura Meissner, all the original designers would do one of a kinds, and then other people would do them, other artists would do them. We raised like a, and I had the money from that auction go to an AIDS charity,
yeah,
the Gay Men's Health Crisis.
yeah.
For years, that was all where it all went,
I love it.
and because it was like that, I did that for Brian,
Yeah,
and we had them go for thousands of dollars, and a single doll for like
yeah,
$3,000, and
yeah.
I was like, holy smoke, this is amazing,
I mean,
and
that was unheard of at that point in time,
yeah, yeah. Well,
That's
well, Tim Alberts was a real design. Well, they all were. That's the thing. Doug and Tim had worked in film and in TV, and Tim Kennedy and I had gone to college together, and was just one of the smartest and best designers I'd ever known, period, of anybody I've ever known. And his things were always very thoughtful and very, why are we doing this? And it was wonderful. And he would get into it and we would laugh. It was very fun. He lived like 4 blocks from me. So he'd say, I got something to show you. And he'd run here and he would have made something. And it was just like, oh my God. And then I'd show it to Joan and I'd come up with a story around it. And, it would go into the line. And then he would do the prototypes for the factory.
Right.
So he was making really good money during those days, like steady, which was, as a designer, you don't always get steady money.
Yeah.
And so I was helping my friends. I was doing something I really loved, and I thought I had given something to the doll world that had a chance of lasting.
Yeah.
And so it was a really remarkable experience, and I'm so grateful to the various people along the way who made it happen. And I love all 3 incarnations of Gene.
Yeah.
All 3 companies. I love all 3.
They all brought something different to the table, I mean, they're all so unique and beautiful in their own way. Jamie Show's a little untouchable for me, unfortunately.
Well, yeah.
But they're beautiful. They're amazing.
But I love Integrity ones.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Because I love all of them. I really do. I mean, it's my daughter. So it's like triplets. And Integrity ones just recently, I love. Like maybe more than I ever have before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I've been really sort of like thinking about that a lot, because when I went to Integrity from Ashton Drake, we changed everything, and the body stayed the same. But the head, the face was subtly different, or maybe not so subtly different. And just because Jason Wu was involved, we approached the fashion differently. But I loved him. I did that for 5 years, and I loved it.
Yeah,
And,
it's beautiful.
And then Jamie Show came along, and after I retired Gene, and I don't know how long it was before Jamie Show came along, and we were gonna do a one-off of that, the beautifully articulated bodies.
Yeah.
And we did it, and it was so beautiful. I think it was called Phoenix is the first one we did. And that I kept doing that, and that lasted for 5 years.
That's amazing.
So it was really like different stages of Gene's career.
Yeah.
I always thought, this girl's got a future here.
Right, right.
She's really, can disappear and come back, and people love her.
Yeah.
So, and I think the basic idea of a lovely young woman, kind,
coming from a small town,
was such a hook for people, because it gave her a humility that made all the beauty and the fashion even more fabulous, because she's like, you're experiencing it with her.
Yeah.
She can't believe she's, so it was I was very, very lucky that those were all the things that became a part of who Gene was. And it was a wonderful period for me in my life. I wouldn't give anything for it. And there's a documentary being done about me right now, and Gene is a part of it.
I'm so excited about that. That's gonna be amazing. I have your current book out right here.
Yeah. So she will always be one of my proudest things I ever did, because I would have killed you for her as a kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too.
I would have robbed a bank and then gone right to Roses.
I would have broken into that little girl neighbor's house. I would.
Yeah. No, it was such a personal thing to do.
Yeah.
And from the start, from my friend Brian causing me to do this, and then Um, she was named after my boyfriend at the time, Gene Bagnato.
Yeah.
And the year
And
Gene
also
came,
you have the since you have the gene,
yeah,
you know, that it all really like whether you thought that out or not, it really interconnected so beautiful. That's why I feel it was such a universe was
yeah,
really
I agree. I
yeah.
agree. Listen, the year Jean came out, the first year she was shown at Toy Fair, I was going from Jean's hospital room to the Javits Center
Yeah.
to show Jean. And Jean never left the hospital.
Yeah.
He died not long after. And the next month, actually. And would leave the hospital like in tears, you know, and 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 then get in a taxi and go to Toy Fair and talk about Jean all day.
Yeah.
But the other Jean, and it was a very, very surreal experience.
I bet.
And I remember sitting in a taxi by myself and saying, "This is like the Twilight Zone. This is so bizarre." I said it out loud to hear me say
Yeah.
that, because it was like, you know, and it was all real. That was the thing. It was all real, and and I was good at Toy Fair. That was when I learned the first time that I was actually able to stand and talk to strangers and not be shy or
Yeah.
intimidated.
I
And
always thought of you as the leading man, you know, you had the leading actress and you were the leading man and you know, were
well,
so
until
dapper and classy and you handsome.
until Trent came along, I was.
Right.
It was a really great experience. We had our last convention in Palm Springs for Gene with Jamie Show, and I came home. I was kind of supernaturally exhausted because I kind of thought that was going to be the final.
Yeah.
And because I'd done a last one with Ashton Drake, and then I had done a last one with Integrity, and this one
Right.
was the last one, and they just wouldn't stop being the last ones. You know, they just kept to being more after that. So it was great. It was great, and I wouldn't give anything to have had that and my two-dimensional career. It's almost too much to ask for.
Yeah.
You know, that you become successful because of your drawings and your paintings and stuff, and then you create a fashion doll that becomes crazy successful, and you get to do a new thing, a new thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to keep you too crazy much longer, but I do want to ask you about how your colleagues, you know, being the professional artist that you were, or are, I'm sorry, when you went into this journey of creating Gene and making a doll, how was the reaction from initial reaction from other colleagues in the doll or the art world and friends and stuff? Were they shocked or surprised or like you're making a doll, like, you know?
You know, I think honestly, it was envy.
Yeah.
I think that was, and I mean, and they would say that.
Yeah.
I mean, no one gave me any shade over creating a doll. I
Yeah.
think it was so me, first of all, that you couldn't doubt the sincerity of the
The
desire
project. Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and and then when it was a big success, you know, you know, shut up, you know. It was like, and I was making like really good money and stuff, and I was shown so much grace in my life during that journey. I mean,
Yeah.
I when I think back on it, it's really remarkable. I mean, something that started as that thing to do to get over my friend's leaving, departure, and my going through that, to something that became useful for the money that it made for the gay men's health crisis, and then, you know, it just it was so good for me, and the thing that I loved was that it was so good for so many other people, that they were having such a good time and enjoying it and coming to conventions, hundreds of people showing up to conventions. Like, I had never done a doll convention
Yeah.
when I was doing these conventions, and the love I was shown, people would just come up and hug me. I love Gene so much, and I was just, soaking it up. I was just loving that.
Yeah.
So it's been just one of the most remarkable turns in the road of my
Yeah.
life, and one that I'm internally grateful for. And it's, right now the art thing is kind of like, I have two shows planned right now, one in Paris and one in Los Angeles. I mean, it's like, it didn't harm my career. It
No,
really
yeah.
didn't. I
Yeah.
think it made people give me a sort of wider view of who I was,
Yeah.
that
No,
I
it's
could do that. And so it's really it's something I'm obviously very proud of, and continue to be kind of amazed by the legs this has, and that it has gone on, and people weekly let me know how much they love Gene, and I'm
yeah.
on doll sites and stuff like that, and they're
Yeah.
and um, like I'm on an antique doll website, and I go in and I use my name and everything, and it's a picture of me and everything, and they say, "Oh, aside from this, I love your Jean doll. It's been so good." Because she had such good clothes
Yes. Yes.
that were the same attention to detail that fashion doll clothes were when they were in made in France,
Hmm.
and so
Hmm.
I think my love of dolls is why Jean has the legs and the appeal that she has,
Yeah.
is because I really loved it too. I wasn't doing this for the money. I was doing this actually, you know, for very personal reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that
And I
gave
think
her.
that's probably part of why it was so successful, you
I
know?
think so too. I think
Yeah.
so too. I think I gave Gene a little bit of a superpower because how much I cared, how
Mhm.
desperate I was to make her beautiful when I was working with Michael Everett, and then when she started being successful, just how, oh my God, how incredulous I was, and like it was a real experience. And um, I'd go to Paris and had a convention there for Gene, and then England and do appearances there. I mean, it really widened my vista of my
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
dramatically, because I was going to come to New York and be an illustrator, and I certainly did that. And then I created Gene, and then I became like a doll mogul.
Yeah.
And then she retired, and then I went back to my drawing and painting, and now this is happening, and it's certainly not been a straight line. It's been a lot of this, but it's always been on the up climb.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know, I'm so lucky. I'm really so lucky.
Well, I feel really lucky and blessed. I feel so fortunate to be able to be living in your lifetime, to be experiencing these things firsthand, and then to feel the full circle moments. I had literal tears in my eyes, when I had written you and crossing fingers and saying, "Hey, I'm now designing a doll for the Modern Doll Collectors Convention," and their theme was artists, authors, and adventurers.
Uh,
And I thought to myself, well, all three of those things apply to Mel Odom, and I really would love to do a doll not inspired by Gene, not in but inspired by Mel Odom, by inspired by his art. And I brought it to the jury, and they all came back, please, yes, that's what we
cool.
want, and and the fact that you said yes and gave me your blessing, I'm hoping that I can do justice, through this of expressing, of course it's hard being an artist portraying another artist's, that vibe. It's this dance because you want to celebrate that artist, and you also want to have a
Yeah,
piece of you,
sure,
of
of
your
course.
artistry intertwined. And I'm just so excited and grateful for the opportunity of doing that. And I was in literal tears because I was just thinking how beautiful this planet is, that we can have moments like there was a time in my life where being able to talk to you right now was an untouchable idea,
Yes,
you
true
know?
story. True
And
story.
here I am, a grown adult, with my dolls and creating dolls and being able to have that
Beautiful
moment with
dolls, by
you.
the way.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just really am so grateful to be able to have that moment with you and have that connection with you. It means the world to me.
Well,
And
to me too.
thank you.
To me too,
Yeah.
Joey. And
Yeah.
I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I work very hard,
You
if
do.
anything.
You totally do. I gather that. I gather that. I mean, and I tell you, I've never worked harder than I did on Gene because it
Yeah.
was all consuming. There wasn't a day I didn't think about what can I do for Gene. It was, and this went on for a long time, and and I had so many people who helped me, so many wonderful, talented people, and but it was an all-consuming thing while I was doing it, and it paid off. It was
Yeah.
nice.
It's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for
My pleasure,
gracing us with
Joey.
your
And we'll
presence.
see each other in person someday.
We will. We will.
Okay?
I really, that's a dream of mine, definitely, to be able to have, because my moments of history with you were very brief moments, and so much time has gone by. I feel like it would be really nice to have that, I love that.
Yes, yes, yes. Little Mel by Joey.
Yes, yes, that's so
Wearing
cool.
a Ken shirt
Uh-huh,
and
uh-huh.
with a pocket watch that I got from somewhere. I don't know.
And he is
But
one of my very first 3D printed male dolls. He is very early in my journey with that art form. So that's so cool to
yeah, yeah. I have all of them up there.
Yes.
I was gonna show all of you did three. But they're sort of
It's
behind.
okay. It's
It
okay.
would have been,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
havoc if I had gotten the other two out.
I'm so glad that he's there.
Oh yeah, he's always here. He's always in my studio. He's always in my and people come in and go, "Oh wow, where'd you get the Mel doll?" So don't worry about resemblance because you totally did. Everybody in here who sees him gets it
Yes, thank
for
you.
real. Yeah,
Well, we love you, Mel Odom. We love you so much,
love you
and
too, Joey.
thank you for everything that you've done for the queer community, for the doll community, for the world. You're so appreciated and loved, and I
Oh,
hope that you feel that every
thanks.
day.
I do. I do. I
Good.
do. Take care of yourself.
You too.
Keep warm.
You too. Bye for now.
Bye bye.